Welcome to Schmoeville, that podcast that's all about being a fan of the Schmoes Know, Mark Ellis and Christian Harloff. It's going to be a great time today. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you watched a ton of Schmoes and a ton of Collider this week so that you would be able to talk with us. My name is Ryan Snelling.
And this is Paul Wolf.
How you doing, Paul? How was your week?
It was good. Had a great week in Schmoeville. A lot of cool things happening, and I'm just interested in your take on this week. So
I have a very strong feeling that our podcast this week is going to be very short, which is funny because last week ended up being an hour and a half long, which was so massive. And a lot of people don't know that, like, we have to record on Friday mornings. That's just when our schedules align, right? But
right. Yeah.
More often than not, I have to work Friday afternoon. So when we record, I have to cram the recording and then cram the editing and cram getting the YouTube video together. And not that I don't complain about it at all because I love what I do, but it's just like it has to happen. So I cheated a little bit, and like the quality on the YouTube video wasn't as good this week because the exporting would have taken so much longer if I kept it how it's supposed to be. And so yeah, I kind of cheated. So I'm admitting that, and I'm apologizing to that. But I don't think people don't notice that.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say, if you wouldn't even said that, I wouldn't even thought of that at all. I mean, because I had mentioned this off air. We had talked about the length of it, and you said how long it was, and I honestly said, well, it was because we had Xander with us, and based on what you put on the YouTube channel, I actually check pretty frequently how many views and how many thumbs ups, thumbs downs, and comments. And I tell you what, man, everybody that I had seen, I mean, had given us a thumbs up. I mean, it was a really good episode, and I even said that how good it was, and length or not, I mean, it really worked well, and I really appreciate Xander's time coming on the show and talking about what he's done and Schmoeville in general, and that continued this week. I mean, people are still talking about it, still giving him a hard time with Iceland, and his accent that really didn't come out. I mean, the aboot was about the only thing I thought of when he was talking. It really didn't come out as much as we had thought. And I thoroughly enjoyed last week. And we're coming up to this week. And like I said, I am more invested now than I had ever been because of how much Schmoeville has responded to it, and seeing the tweets I'm getting, the retweets, the friend requests, the accepting of friend requests from pretty much the entire Schmoeville, and the Schmoes Know Show and the Wanger crew, and even old AMC movie talk people like Amy Rose, friending me and getting more into conversation with that group has been really cool, and it's just that you guys are to thank for it. So thank you out there, Schmoeville.
Also, if you're with us from the Facebook group Schmoeville, happy birthday, guys. 2 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, 2 years.
Right before I got on here, I saw someone post, and give me just a second, I'll be able to tell your name. Let's see. Mason Justice did a picture of Schmoeville, and it's written out Schmoeville, but profile pictures of every member of Schmoeville make up this logo. Did you see this before we came on here?
I did, yeah.
It's amazing, and I made a joke. I can see my picture. Haha. No, it's awesome, and I can't believe that he did this. He said that he started once the group hit 9,000 so that they'd be able to work them all in. That's incredible. So shout out to Mason Justice. Make sure you check that out in the Facebook group. And if you're not in the Facebook group, join. Make sure you get Schmoeville with the exclamation mark. But yeah, happy birthday, Schmoeville. To sort of echo what Paul said, just a huge thank you for welcoming me and Paul and the podcast and everything. We greatly appreciate it. It's the best fan community that there is out there.
And we hit 10,000 members today too. Did you see that?
Yeah. That's what the logo was for, right?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Pretty impressive. I don't have anything else before we get into this week in Schmoeville. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I don't. Let's do it.
Yeah. So if you're new to this podcast, this is a segment called This Week in Schmoeville, which basically encapsulates everything that happened since last week's show. And it's mostly the stuff on Collider. You know, sometimes Schmoes put out their movie reviews and things like that, which I actually didn't get to see any of their movie reviews except Civil War. But I think they also put up the Barbershop. But I didn't watch that one, and I think Jungle Book actually came out last week, so that we were kind of empty on those fronts. Did you catch the Barbershop review by chance?
I did not. No. That to me, because it doesn't interest me. I mean, it's the third in this series, and it's not my wheelhouse. So no, I did not catch that one.
Technically, it's the fourth in the series because the third one was the Queen Latifah led Beauty Shop.
Beauty Shop. That's right. That's right. This one, they merged the two together.
Exactly. So we have 4 barbershop movies, which is incredible, but it doesn't interest me either. Really. I wasn't planning on seeing it. So yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. So, but on that front, you know, we had our typical week in Collider, and there's not much for me to mention. I don't know if you have something, but I want to talk about the new Collider news segments. I thought that they were fantastic. They looked so pro, like it, and we talked about how the quality of the Schmoedown, like the production quality and everything. It looks fantastic. No, it's on Collider, but the Collider news looks so pro. And I've seen a lot of other YouTube channels kind of do this, like Clever Movies sort of does this, and also Nerdist with Jessica Chobot. They have this sort of format. And I thought Ashley, I didn't see one with Natasha. I thought Ashley did a great job. They look amazing. I'm not sure who's running the production. I don't know if it's the same guys who do Movie Talk. It just looked so good. Do you agree?
I do. And Natasha has not done one yet. No, that is something that they're hopefully will be soon. But Ashley did a wonderful job.
I think she did one yesterday.
Did I not see that one?
I think Natasha did the one yesterday. I remember seeing her. I remember seeing her mention it.
The last one I saw was the Ashley Mova when she had her Lakers shirt on. So yeah. That was the last one I had seen. So if she had done one, I'll have to check that one out. But I tell you what, yeah, that's the first thing I saw when I was going through the feed of my Facebook page. I saw those. I'm like, I wonder what this is, and clicked on it, and it was literally just like what you would have on a sports station, like on my 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland here. They have what's the 2020 sports ticker, and it just does a real quick news stories on certain things happening in sports, and it kind of felt like that in the movie world. So it was really, really well done. And yeah, I even tweeted that out to Christian saying, hey man, these things are really cool. And he said, thanks, dude. So, I mean, it's a good addition, and I hope to see more.
What I'm excited about is that it's just another one of those things that proves like how much Collider is growing, and it's just really exciting. I think something like that can actually bring in more fans because people are going to stumble upon those videos. Just being on YouTube, I think, because they're hitting all the trending topics when it comes to the movie news and stuff. The one con I have is that more often than not, it's probably going to be things that I just watched being covered on Movie Talk. So that's why, in my opinion, I think it's more for those people that aren't subscribed and they're trying to pull them in, right? Do you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely agree. That's why they actually, in Movie Talk, they separate each story, because you might not want to watch the whole show. They might want to catch snippets, but big fans like us, we'll already have seen things like that and be like, oh, we knew about that. So we almost like watched an abridged version, a Cliff Notes version of what we just saw. So that is definitely to bring in more fans just to see more of it. So definitely an agreement there.
For sure. This is kind of off topic, but I want to hear your opinion on this. How do you feel about the Post-John Campea Collider? Do you have any thoughts on that? Have you even thought about it at all?
You know what? Yeah, I actually do. I'm glad that, to be honest, I'm glad that the other members of Collider can actually get a word in now. Because of John's little rants that he goes on. And he does. And you know what? I love his opinions. I love what he does. But when he when he leads a topic, he will go on that topic and give his opinion for a good amount of time. And I like this, that everyone now can voice their opinions and give a lengthier explanation of what they think about this certain movie topic, and I like it a little better. I think the production has gone up, the value of it, the look of it, the guests that are on there, the just all the overall just attitude of everybody. I mean, I think honestly it's better. And I see that, John moved on to doing his own little podcast, kind of the same thing he's done in the past, and
Right.
that's awesome. And I like that he's on Jedi Council, and I like him popping up here and there. And what I've noticed also is when he does guest on other shows, he lets everyone do their thing, and he doesn't take it over. Like I noticed the Sam Witwer, Freddie Prinze Jr. Jedi Council, he let them talk, and Mike, that was one of my favorite Jedi Councils I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
And he let them tell their stories, and he's kind of pulled back a little bit because I think part of it is exhaustion and just being done with what he had to do and his new job. So he's just letting everybody else take the reins and move forward. But overall, yeah, I do definitely think it's just in quality it's a little bit better without him.
I don't know if I would agree with that. I think they're just both versions are good for different reasons. Like I really, really loved John, and John was actually sort of like, we have to remember, like, and for me, the Schmoes were just the Schmoes like a couple of months ago. Because, now they're like, I don't know if we would be talking about Collider if this podcast existed like last summer when the Schmoes were just guests on there, right? So obviously we talk about Collider now because the Schmoes have a great deal or are in charge of it a great deal. So we have to remember that, like, to me, Collider, John Campea brought me into Collider. So I was a huge fan of John Campea. I still am. I'm a little embarrassed because when he announced his resignation, I was like really upset because I didn't realize that he would still be around. It's kind of like he's still not even really gone because we still get the rants, and I love his rants, whether I disagree with him or not. But I'm a little embarrassed because I wrote this piece on filmbeef.com about, it was like an open letter to John Campea, basically telling him how much like Collider and what he's done has meant to me. Because I thought that I just wasn't gonna like see him on YouTube again, and then I gave him that letter, and he reached out and said, thank you so much, and blah blah blah. And that was actually one of the biggest things that Schmoeville has done for me. Is I posted that article in Schmoeville, and everyone rallied behind it and got it out there, because I had sent it to Christian, and I don't know if Christian sent it off to John or not, but Schmoeville certainly helped accomplish that. But I'm a little embarrassed because it's not really like John hasn't really left completely. So well, I hate that I wrote that letter.
Going all the way back to even the AMC days, he has said multiple times, and I kind of have that same feeling as well, is that he gets bored and wants to move on to different things and move on to new better things here. And when he left AMC, I was like, oh. But then like a few weeks later, everything went from red from AMC to green for Collider. Right. And I'm like, wait, hold on a second. What just happened? And so he explained everything that happened. So he didn't really leave. And now with leaving Collider and going to the Comic-Con HQ, the show there, he hasn't really left Collider either. So he's still kind of there. So it's almost like he gives everyone a false sense of he's leaving, but then he's still around. And so it's like one of those like roller coaster, right? Like, oh, he's leaving, but wait, no, there he is. Oh, he's leaving. Oh, but wait, there he is.
I don't think it's that. I think I misunderstood. Like, I mean, all he said was he's not going to be Christian is called the director of development. And obviously Dennis kind of absorbed a lot of what John did too. So I don't know what do they always call? They would always announce, and now here's blah, 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 John Campea at the top of Movie Talk, whatever they used to call him.
Jeez. Yeah. What was that? It was executive producer or something producer.
Yeah, it was something like that. I just misunderstood that it was just that, not that he was like quitting I don't know. I don't know if I thought he was like quitting the business or what, because, he kind of talked about producing other things. And also I think Schnepp has subtly hinted that he's a part of that Comic-Con HQ. I wasn't aware of that until like a week ago. I think he like mentioned it on his Instagram or something. And
there was a mention just briefly. There was just a mention briefly on the Schmoes last night too. Was John and Schnipp's show, something like that, real quick. Like I didn't know there was that coming out yet. So maybe that was an oops on their part, saying that there's some coming up. But I did know that there were something was in the works, and I think that we just got a little hint to that just this week too.
I didn't realize that we were going to be talking about Campea. I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just curious because I remember they interviewed on April Fools those like pranksters that had that movie coming out, and I remember so many people commenting on the video and Instagram that they hated that the direction Collider was going post John Campea. Like they thought their integrity was compromised because they were interviewing these like YouTube hacks apparently. And I don't really know anything about those guys, so I'm not going to say anything about it. But basically, I'm just saying that there are people out there in Schmoeville and the fan community that were kind of worried about post Campea Collider. And I don't get a sense of that. And it doesn't sound like that you do either, really, even though you did say, no, you said it's better now. So you definitely don't agree with that. By the way, we mentioned Schnepp. I want to get this in real quick. We are in the last week of his Kickstarter for Sweaties Unite. And last time I checked it, it was like at 35 grand, and his goal is 175 grand. I don't know. I wasn't around when he did his last Kickstarter for Death of Superman Lives What Happened. So I don't know if a ton of people just threw in at the very last minute. I don't know why the other one was more successful. I'm kind of worried. Because you can check the setting in the bio or whatever in the description. It says that if he doesn't make his goal, then he doesn't get any of the money. And I remember when I did an Indiegogo campaign for something I was working on, I had an option of keeping whatever I got, even if it didn't hit my goal or not. I don't know if you've been following this. Are you kind of worried that he's not going to make his goal?
You know, I think, well, you can only speculate. I don't think at this point, because I know we're coming close to the end. I don't honestly think he's going to get there. And I actually have done a Kickstarter. I've done 2 Kickstarters, and they do have that where if you don't get that goal, you don't get the money. So I just want everybody out there that supports him, supports Collider, supports everything he does, to get out there and almost like I'm like voting to get out there and give them money that you can. I mean, a little bit goes a long way, and you can etch your name in whatever you want to do. I know he said $25 gets your name in the credits, so any little bit will help.
We forgot to talk about the Schmoedown last week, Paul.
I understand we did, and to be honest, I think we did because it was quite forgettable.
And we were already kind of like last week when we had Xander on the show, we completely forgot to even predict who we wanted to win. I don't know why we just weren't talking about Sam and Hal that much. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that they didn't even like shit talk like the previous. None. So I don't know. Let's talk about that Schmoedown real quick before we move on.
Why not? Because it is quite quick. And if you notice the minutes in that show, it was like 28 minutes long. The rest of them so far have been closer to 38, 35, whatever. But yeah, it even the pre-show smack talk that they had was with Sam. It was very, very like docile, very, very like this, and I like him, and we're good friends, and like it wasn't Mance and Roca. I mean, so I think it's almost like trying to compare sequels. You know, we can't compare it to the last one. It's, whatever, don't compare it to that one, compare it on its own type of thing. But coming off the high of that one, going on to this one, it was meh. I mean, it was literally meh on all fronts. And we saw a knockout. I mean, everything again was the production of it again, the music of it. I mean, everything was stellar as always. Just the combatants were just, blah to me. And it came out in the show itself. I mean, with answering and Hal tried his best to try to make it comedic and try to boost his confidence here and there, and it just fell flat. And Sam had a great showing, and I was impressed by that. And I think we talked about this too, is that last question in that last round, Hal missed U571. Yeah. And the second he said it, I mean, that the question was out there, I went, U571. And he goes, K9 the Widowmaker. I'm like, oh no. And there it went.
Right. And I like everyone involved, but it definitely was the biggest meh episode of Schmoedown. And I've gone back and watched a ton of the previous ones, pre-Collider or whatever. And I don't know, they're just better. I don't know. And I think a lot of what had to do with the length too is that, you said the shit talking segment, it just wasn't nearly as good or impactful. So I don't know. I just think it sucks to be on such a high after the Campea Moral Roca Mance and to come down to this one. I thought that going into today's episode with Makuga and Wolf, I'm a little bit more excited about this. How do you feel going into this matchup?
Okay, so full discretion on this one. Okay, so Clark Wolf, going all the way back to AMC movie talk days, she was on there a bunch of times, and even recently coming back to Collider. My wife has actually popped in and seen me watching both of those shows at a couple times here and there, and she walked by, and when Clark was on there, she'd look at it and go, "Okay, see, now I know why you like this show, Paul." I'm like, well, okay, so my wife's a big fan of Clark. And so I kind of, she's on the Miri Jetikin list of, I'm a fan of hers. And so just seeing her throughout, and Makuga having him, with the gaming that we've been talking about for the games, it's a hard choice because I like both. And movie knowledge wise, I'm seeing more on the side of Clark knowing a little more, but I don't know if Josh is being coy and playing off because he's messing up titles of movies. I don't know if he's trying to be jokey or if he's playing off the buffoon role, and then he's going to strike. I mean, I don't know how he's heading into it, but I am actually looking forward to seeing both of these two go at it and seeing who wins. And I honestly, it is, again, it's one of those toss-ups, the Campea Merle thing. It's a toss-up in my mind. And we had a vote on Schmoeville. We had a poll, and I think we had Josh winning it. And I actually voted for Clark, and I think I might be staying with that as of right now. So I think I might be going Clark on this one.
So Makuga is like a memory bank when it comes to like history, like U.S. history, world history. He knows a ton of that stuff. So I feel like he could easily catalog movie quotes and movie trivia and all that good stuff in there. But, over the past week or so, past couple of weeks, he's only really mentioned movies if they involve Pittsburgh, where he's from. And
I have noticed that.
By the way, I was going to make a joke at the top of the show. If anybody, I was going to say, hey, Paul, did you know that Makuga's from Pittsburgh? Because he talks about it all the time.
I did not know that.
So I'm going to go with Clark. I think she'll definitely win if she gets like a horror category. Because
absolutely on that. Yeah, absolutely on that one. Yep.
Yeah, if she gets that, I think she'll definitely get ahead. And I don't know, Makuga, he forgets stuff, and he likes to talk about movies like Bad Boys and stuff like that. And I think this Pittsburgh thing, he needs to go out of Pennsylvania for movie trivia.
I think that'd be something that Christian and Mark can even think about is if a combatant's strength, don't have it in the show. Like eliminate it from the wheel and don't have them as categories to just try to make it a level playing field. That's just what I would think.
I disagree with that because then we wouldn't have had that moment that we got with Roca.
Yeah, it's true too. Yeah,
and Roca didn't know it, so it's not ever a guarantee. I actually really like that. So
that's true. That they may have been that might have been the outlier. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, but we both have Clark. All right, so Paul, we caught up, talked about the Schmoedown. Now let's hear about our recap with the Schmoes Know Show last night. Take it away.
Okay, guys, so we have the Schmoes Know Show that happened last night, and this week also in Schmoeville, we've had some live streaming issues, and once again, that happened here Don't know what's going on. Don't know if it's the universe telling him or them not to do it or what it is going on. But there was an issue. There was about 20, they said, 27 minutes late, but they still were able to get it going, and it worked throughout the show.
What are your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, I just see a lot of people bitching in the chat, and
you can't handle that. I mean, to be honest, I mean, if it's a YouTube thing, I mean, that's out of your hands. And it's almost like, you can't, I mean, it's like watching a movie. You can't, I mean, unless you're involved with the movie, if you don't like it for some reason, it's not like a choose your own adventure type of thing. It's out of your hands. So in this case, I mean, if there's an issue with the live stream, then it's a YouTube thing, and it's not anything to do with the show itself.
I just feel like it's hard to determine, like, in the live chat who's been a lifelong fan of Schmoes versus who's just joining that show for the first time or whatever. So you never can judge. Like, I just think people need to relax when it comes to that kind of stuff, because these guys give us so much content every week. And I mean, you can just chill out if you're not watching it right on time, because they're gonna deliver no matter what. They work super hard in giving you this content. I mean, just relax.
CTFD, calm the fuck down.
Exactly.
Well, we had the summer movie preview that Christian had been touting for the last couple of days, and so we got a pretty cut and dry episode with just Sasha, Mark, Christian, and their special guest that always usually comes on the show for that is Ethan Irwin. So that was kind of cool, and he is one of the producers of The Nice Guys, which they did discuss a couple of times during the show. And so it was interesting to see that nobody else was there. We had no Sheridan, no JTE, no Finstock, no anybody. They had just Mark Riley monitoring Twitter and Miri just for a little bit. Overall, was that kind of distracting that we didn't have the cast of characters there?
Well, I mean, think about if we had more people. They ended that show like right at 2 hours, so I think it would have been overcrowded. I haven't seen another summer movie preview, and I don't have a summer movie preview in the time capsule for this week, so I didn't really do the required reading on that. But I think understand why, because it just would have been too much probably. But yeah, I mean, you want those people in there for sure. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of missed having the game that Makuga had. So I mean, I understand what the topic was and what they did, and I actually kind of I was going to send this message to you a couple of times, but I was finding myself trying to get through the episode. I mean, it was just cut and dry. It was the month, the movies week by week, their opinion next month. The movies week by week, and so I know that that's the way that they do it, and I think not having a few of those other cast of characters on there just kind of made it a little just dry. I mean, yeah, they did have the farting corpse farts and jokes and stuff throughout, and that made it pretty funny. And Sasha again, standing out with the talking about Schmoeville and saying, should she get that shirt or not, and her going bam and having it on the chunk shirt, which is really cool. I would thumbs up on that. That's pretty cool. They sort of discussed a little bit about the Doctor Strange trailer. So, personally, I kind of had the same agreement. We can easily say Batman Begins meets Inception. I mean, that's kind of the overall thing. I don't know. Did you have anything different besides that?
I mean, that's exactly what I said to someone, and I think that's what everybody is saying. That's what it feels like. But then obviously that doesn't cover the cosmic sort of supernatural aspect of it, because Inception and Batman Begins don't really have that. But I thought it was hilarious that Ellis was like super confused by that aspect of it, because it's like we kind of already knew we were getting that. Just hearing anyone talk about Doctor Strange, they were talking about what it's going to be like going into this film, especially when Schnepp talks about Strange. I feel like if you don't have to be a comic book fan, but if you were just following the movie, that this is coming, especially with like the Ant-Man segment at the end of that film. Anyway, I just found it hilarious that Ellis was like so baffled that this movie could go there.
Well, that goes back to comprehension. Comprehension is also in reading that he doesn't do because he hates books. And again, that school district, I don't tell you what happened there, but I don't know. That's going back to his childhood, I guess. I'm not sure.
Speaking of railing on the Schmoes, we're giving Ellis a hard time. Harloff gave JTE a hard time last night on the show.
Oh man, yeah, he called him an orc, or the troll, or I think it was the orc. Yeah, the picture. That was so bad.
It's funny because this is the second time that so far in Phase 6 where Ellis has kind of had to calm Harloff down, and Ellis was very quick to defend JT. And it's funny because, you know, I pretty much picked up on very early, like when I was introduced to the show, that JTE was the butt of every joke. So, but so everyone feels that way. Even Ellis makes fun of JTE, but it's hilarious that this is the one time that I've seen Harloff go to. I don't know. Did you think Harloff went too far?
I didn't think of it as that. I thought it would be the interesting dynamic that Christian threw in, that they're going to be going off in the Schmoedown, so they have to do a little bit of tit for tat and yin for yang. So that was interesting. Like I said, I compared that to like the Rockers or the Mega Powers exploding in the old WWF. So I think kind of that we got a little tease to little tension among the ranks of the Schmoes there.
But I loved it.
Moving on. So let's go into May. They had a bunch of movies that they talked about it for May. And by the end of May, first of all, May looks phenomenal looking at the movie list here. And the note I had under a couple of these, the biggest one to me was Money Monster. To be honest, let me just say that it reminds me of The Negotiator, because I saw a preview of it and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And again, it goes into the fact that Julia Roberts needs a comeback, and she's in this other movie, Mother's Day, that looks crappy. So she needs something to happen. She needs to get hooked onto a director and a writer that could just bring her career back to what it was. Because right now, I think it's phoning it in time for Julia Roberts. She looks like she's just getting a paycheck. But after looking at May, I mean, I'm in total agreement that they picked Civil War. It was a consensus as the biggest grossing movie of that month. Are you in agreement with that? I am totally in agreement with it. What do you think?
Yeah, looking at my predictions, Civil War is my May pick. 100%.
Yep. 100%. What was cool again, Sasha sliding that in with the indie picks, that L Street 1976, that making Star Wars thing. I'm totally on board with that. And so I also thought when they talked about The Nice Guys, it was brought up that they kind of called it, Ethan called it kind of like a cousin of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. They were both written at the same time. I guess he mentioned that, and that possibly Nice Guys could be a start of a franchise, because he'd mentioned it was kind of like the same team behind Lethal Weapon. And I remember watching the first Lethal Weapon. My dad got that from a video store. I wasn't supposed to watch it. It was R back then. I forget what year it came out, but I shouldn't have been watching it. But Lethal Weapon 2 is awesome, and then 3 and 4, okay. But yeah, if they start a franchise with The Nice Guys, if it's the same team, if it might even be the same actors, I'm all for that. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing also. So it's kind of cool that got his insight into that. Did you have any other insight into that?
Nope, that's it.
Cool. All right. So moving on to June, they talked about a few movies here as well, and we'll talk about the Conjuring here in the time capsule. So at the end of the segment from June, they discussed the biggest grossing choice, and they actually were not a consensus. They chose Finding Dory, the Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, and Independence Day Resurgence. That was, of course, in between the flatulence that erupted during this segment. I thought, to me, out of those three that they picked, I'm going Finding Dory, because of everything they mentioned that they talked. Riley even said it. Sasha even said it. I think that's going to be another humongous hit for Disney Pixar, and they're going to continue this. And I actually love Finding Nemo. Like I mentioned earlier, is my favorite Pixar film. Not of the Disney lore. Lion King is my favorite Disney animated.
Right.
But Finding Nemo, yeah, I mean, I love that movie. I still, to this day, because I have that little kid over here I'm staring at right now. Hi, buddy. When he says "Love you, Dad" at the end, I tell you what, I tear up. I'm doing it right now. That just gets me every time.
Okay, back to the June releases.
So awesome. So I again am picking Finding Dory. What did you pick out of those ones that they had for the June?
I'm picking Finding Dory. I think people are putting Independence Day sequel on too high of a pedestal. There's no way that both of those movies beat Finding Dory, and I pray to God that I'm right.
Well, yeah, to me, I've even gone back to say, Independence Day, when I first saw it, it was the most exciting crowd experience I've ever seen. I've never seen a crowd all at once applaud at the end of a movie. I've never seen that, and I haven't to this day seen it.
Oh, really?
Everyone erupt. It was so cool. So the sequel being 20 minutes, I wish, 20 years later, yeah, it'll still look cool. Who knows? We'll see when it comes out in June. So let's move on to July. We have back into July. We mentioned we were mentioned again the second anniversary of Schmoeville, which is awesome that they mentioned that we are now at the second anniversary. So thanks again for that. And we were joined by Miri to talk about July. And I have a lot of notes here on July on how, to me, it looks bad. I don't know about you.
Is this the Star Trek month, or is that June?
Yeah, it's Star Trek. I mean, the list that I see here, I look at it and I'm just going, I don't know about July, because I thought to myself, like, there was a movie a month that I'm seeing. There has to be there, but I'm looking at it going, July I might skip. Because I might go see Secret Life of Pets with my kids. But again, going back to the last podcast with Kevin Hart, knowing that it's the animated version of Kevin Hart, it's the same Kevin Hart, just as a bunny. Everything else, just, yeah, I don't know. The one thing that I would probably say out of all of that I would go see is Life Animated that Sasha brought up.
Yeah, true.
I might check that out, because to me, July looks bad. And they said box office predictions again. They said Star Trek, Pets, and Bourne. And I'm thinking, because of what they discussed, I think Secret Life of Pets will take it for the month of July, for the highest grossing.
I agree with that. Pets is what I think will win July. That's what I wrote down here. I am not as pessimistic as you are about the month of July. I'm a huge fan of the Bad Robot Star Trek films. I cringe.
I didn't say I wasn't.
I know.
I didn't say I wasn't.
Okay, that's fair. I cringe at anyone who talks shit about the upcoming Star Trek movie because of the trailer. Like, they talked about it on Schmoes, that they replaced the song, like a fan replaced the song, and the trailer was better. Why are you getting so upset about, like, you think the movie's, like, I'm not saying they said this, just the internet in general, talking shit about the movie just because Sabotage is in the trailer. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
like, it might not have been it might not have been the right song, but like Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy are throwing in these songs. Guardians of the Galaxy is, now that we've seen the film, we know that the movie ties into the film and we praise it.
Right.
Sabotage ties into Star Trek. And you can say what you want about Star Trek trying to be Guardians or whatever, but why don't you just talk more about the footage? Like, I just hate that people are caring so much that song's in the trailer that they're freaking out about it. Just who cares? We're going to get another trailer and it's going to be good and we'll be fine. It's going to be fine. I think people are way too upset about that song. Like, if you didn't like it, okay, shrug your shoulders, but people are using that to, like, hate the movie, and I think it's just really, really stupid. So
a bad trailer does not make a bad movie. So I mean, you could have a bad trailer and have a great movie. That's happened in the past. You could have a great trailer and have a bad movie. Star Wars Phantom Menace. But I mean, it's a trailer, come on. And it does, like you said, it ties in the first, the car chase in the first movie. And I am a fan. I enjoyed the first two. Star Trek Into Darkness was great. I liked it.
I agree.
Yeah, and you know what? Trekkies out there having Galaxy Quest as a higher ranked movie. Those stupid Trekkies that one year did that ranking of all of the movies.
Whoa.
I'll tell you what. I don't get it. And you know what? Christian said a few things about you guys. Just no. We're just pick a catchphrase Christian said and just follow suit. Moving on.
I'm upset you didn't mention Bourne though, because Bourne is my second most anticipated movie of the year. because
I didn't, yeah. I think that's there's a definite fan base for that. I
just
kind
not for
of
you.
I tell you what, the first two were. The third one, I think there were whoever decided to edit the film, there was too much close-ups on the HD old wrinkled faces. Pull it back a little bit. It pulled me out of the movie. There's too many close-ups. I'm like, oh, old wrinkled face. Old wrinkled face. All right, pull it back. Pull it back a little bit. Don't put too much of a close-up. That pulled me out of the movie. The first two, awesome, phenomenal, great movies at shock value, everything, but we're going too much into the reviews there. But I just, when it came out of nowhere, I had thought the movie was going to be called The Bourne Betrayal. That's what the rumored title I thought was going to be called. And it ends up, it's just Jason Bourne. I'm like, you couldn't come up with a more creative title? I mean, that's not the reason why I don't think it's going to be successful, but I just think it won't be as successful because Secret Life of Pets will have the family aspect. This one seems to be more of the the male adult type of Bond fan that can span the late maybe late 20s, early 30s, all the way to 70s. So I don't think that Pets is I don't think Bourne's going to beat Pets, but I feel it'll be close.
I agree. I was addressing that you were just pessimistic about July. I'm not saying that Bourne is going to beat Pets. I was just surprised that you were so down on July when, you got to Star Trek, and it sounds like you like the first two Star Trek. So
yeah, I just don't, seeing that the rest of the month though, just to me. I mean, I don't know. I just don't having like the 85th Ice Age movie, Cashing Paychecks, Ray Romano, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it just So I mean, I don't know. Just kind of, that's what it says to me. It said, I put it quotes, July looks like shit to me, and I don't normally swear too often, but that to me just looked bad. All right, moving on here. I might just want to mention just real quick that the little break in the story of this Grace Randolph, Andy Signore thing was interesting to see that Twitter war. So I'm going to look into more about that. Do you have any insight into that at all? Have you followed that at all about the Marvel paying off critics thing and the agenda and anything about that Twitter battle? I haven't really seen it.
I had an argument with my Film Beef co-host Phil about this very same thing yesterday. Yeah, it's a hot topic right now, and Campea was posting about it, and it's just a lot of people are talking about this ever since BVS. I looked up the article on the Wrap, which is what they referenced with this whole little feud or whatever, and they have like her tweets in that. So, and they mentioned that on Schmoes. But if you guys want to hear more about this little debate, go to the Wrap, and they covered it in one of their features, I think. So definitely check that out. I would love to have Grace Randolph on the show, like Christian said. So if you guys check out that article, make sure you tweet out to her and Christian to come on the Schmoes, because I definitely want that to happen. I don't want to go back into it because I exhausted myself yesterday arguing. Gotcha. But yeah, Schmoeville, make that happen, because it would make for a great episode for sure. So anyway,
absolutely. All right, August, the last month they discuss, and I tell you what, August looks phenomenal. And they started off with the number one that they picked as the most and highest grossing movie, Suicide Squad. So I am in complete agreement, and they also did mention Pete's Dragon as the number two possibly, but I have Suicide Squad being the August winner. What about you?
Me too. So Did we just agree all across the board? Civil War, Finding Dory, Pets, and Suicide Squad. All
right, well, let's play a little devil's advocate. Out of those, what wins the summer?
Wow. It comes down to Civil War and Finding Dory, I think.
Me too. My God, we agree again. Sander, can you disagree? Dan, no? Anybody? Leanne? No? Damn. No. Grayson, what do you think?
I really don't know who I would pick between those two. God, it's so difficult.
Come over here, buddy. Let me ask my son, my 4-year-old over here. Let's bring him in here. Come here. Come over here. No? All right, let me ask you from a distance. What movie is going to be more popular? Finding Dory or Captain America: Civil War? He says Captain America.
That kid's a genius. He was so confident. He answered that immediately. Good for you, Grayson.
So you heard it here. He's holding his Falcon toy as we're talking too. And
You
who do you
heard
got?
it
What,
here
Black
on
Panther?
Schmoeville. We had the tiebreaker, and Grayson called out Civil War. Yeah, so all across the board, we agree. So that's awesome.
All right, that's our show. Thanks enough. End on a high note. There you are. Sorry.
Is there anything else before we get to Time Capsule?
Nope. Thanks,
All good?
Grayson. No, I just I'm interested. Like again, Sasha bringing in the indie pick thing. I really like that portion of it. I can't. Did she say it was like called South Side with Me with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama first date movie? Kind of sounds really cool.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
and yeah, and you know the other. I don't know. They mentioned Sausage Party. I'm not going to talk about that one. That one just looks. I don't know if you guys out there remember Cool World on how they marketed that to kids, and it was not a kids movie. I think this is going to happen again with that one, but that's just really on that side. Let's move on. Yeah, let's go to the time capsule.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question first. So,
Yeah.
with Sasha, this is the second week where she's kind of been hating on some celebrities. Last week, she talked extensively about Benedict Cumberbatch. This week, she threw
no. It's Cumberbitch. Get it
right. This week, she talked shit about Miles Teller and Jonah Hill. So
I was shocked to hear that completely.
I love Miles Teller as an actor, and I've heard him in interviews. I think he's a super cool guy. I'm a little I don't have an opinion on Jonah Hill really, other than he's impressed me as far as turning a corner and becoming more of a dramatic actor. I really love that about him, but I don't really have an opinion. Like, I'm not a super fan or anything, and I don't hate him. So aside from them, do you like it when anyone on the Schmoes panel has like this insight to a celebrity? Because, I love Miles Teller, and to hear Sasha say that kind of ruins him for me. So I'm wondering if you like hearing about these celebrities, whether they end up being douches or not.
I had a moment where I had in my notes here for the show that it happened with a few of the directors. There's some legal issues, so some of the directors went through, and there's some Mel Gibson had this, some stuff. Charlie Sheen, a lot of stuff. Tom Cruise, all the stuff that they've done outside of the movie, reflects what they, their box office draw. I kind of think in this case, Sasha needs to kind of separate the actor to the person and base it on that. And if they could be complete, and utter, dickheads outside of the film industry, or in the outside of the movies, but in the movie, base it on their performance and not their personal. I think that's part of what I think she might need to do, because if they're jerks off screen, if they do a good job on screen, that's kind of what I kind of care about. I don't care what they do off screen. I kind of do my the eye roll or the shaking of the head of some of the decisions in this case, but I can separate the two.
Sure. So I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Sure.
Moving into Time Capsule, I had a couple things. I had something planned before I watched Schmoes Know last night, but then so much stuff came up in the show that actually prompted this week's Time Capsule from things that were mentioned here. So the first little tidbits is that they brought up The Dark Knight Rises for a second, and Ellis mentioned like how the trilogy was great, at least for the first two movies. And I feel like The Dark Knight Rises is the most abused movie. Like, I feel like it just doesn't deserve it. Is it the worst of the three? Yes. But to like have such a bad taste in your mouth because of The Dark Knight Rises, like if that's the worst movie you've ever seen, then you're doing pretty good. Like that's just my opinion. So, but just hearing Ellis, that attitude, I went back and watched their review of The Dark Knight Rises. So Christian goes nuts over it. Like Christian loves The Dark Knight Rises, at least at the time. And Harloff gave it a 5 out of 5. And Ellis gave it a 4 out of 5. So there's two things to take away from that. For one, I don't know if Christian would still stick to that 5 out of 5. Just because when I've heard that movie get brought up, he's never really quick to say anything about it. But I feel like Ellis, I've heard him say other things about the film. I feel like for a 4 out of 5, he's a little too hard on the film. So I wonder if he would be sticking to that 4 out of 5 as well. Did you take anything away from that?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, when I left the theater from The Dark Knight Rises, I actually had to process it as soon as I left. my initial thought was I loved it. It was great. And then everyone's like, now this plot hole, this plot hole, this plot hole. It was handcuffed because of Heath Ledger not being there, and so I'm like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. I actually, when I left The Dark Knight, went, I had to watch it 3 times to just go, oh my gosh. So for me, Dark Knight, it took me a while to really fully love it, because again, the decision making with Two-Face, and again, I don't know what that was, but like you had said, the issue was, if that's the worst of all of them, then you're still doing pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I just think people were too hard on that, and I was definitely curious hearing him say that, what he ended up rating it. So I'm surprised that it just seems like over time The Dark Knight Rises is sort of worn off for them. I would love to hear what they would rate it now for sure.
Right.
Just for me, because I love the film Super 8, and I'm glad Copster put in the Super 8 theme during one of the breaks. I think it was Copster. It might have been Cody or somebody, but
I'll give credit to Cody. Cody needs some positivity right now. Give it to Cody.
Copster, even if you put the song in, we're going to give credit to Cody. Anyway, so that was awesome to hear that song. And I never hear people talk about this movie. Like, people I don't know if they forget that J.J. Abrams did this film. But I went back and Ellis gave that a 4.5 out of 5. Not that I disagree with that, because I love the film. I just don't hear a lot of love for the movie, so I was really surprised to hear that he rated it so high, and even higher than The Dark Knight Rises.
Maybe it's one of those movies that just it was a forgettable film. I don't know. I wouldn't say forgettable. You obviously, that's one of your top 5 movies right there. Maybe even the top,
no,
but
not top 5.
Okay, well, maybe just thinking like, maybe in his eyes, it wasn't as memorable to bring up anymore, or to really hold him to how great it was and bringing up in conversation. So maybe it's just one of those movies. I don't know, it's just one of those movies. It's just a movie. And so I really don't have any thought. It would be cool to see, if they revisit, some of their old reviews and say, would you still keep it at that ranking or not after you've heard other opinions, looked into it more, just to see if they would still keep it at that ranking. Right.
That's hardly relevant to the Schmoes Know episode, but since that music came up, and I figured I could talk about that during Time Capsule. So Christian mentioned the Conjuring interview that they did a couple years back. Makuga got scared apparently from the ghost stories, and so I went back and checked this out. This comes from the Schmoes Know episode 105. This is when they were doing stuff on Toad Hop Network, and they have the format is like that 3 camera setup in that studio. Christian said to check out this clip, and they had Carrie and Chad Hayes, the screenwriters of The Conjuring, and they talked a lot about like these real life stories from like basically what inspired The Conjuring and just kind of all this other stuff. And Christian was like, yeah, Makuga got really scared, had to leave. I watched the footage, and Makuga like leaves and then comes right back. Like I was expecting like a fit, like sort of on the lines of like JTE in that Roddy Piper incident. Like I was expecting something like that, but I was kind of underwhelmed. I feel like Christian exaggerated it a little bit. What do you think?
I had to as well. I looked at it as well because of that, and directed, went through it and actually kind of fast forwarded through the thumbnails to see, him in the background. As Mark said, he was tweeting or texting whoever it was, but I did see him leave twice. But it wasn't the biggest reaction that I was expecting, like a pause, like as the story was going on, a pause, look up, his eyes get big, and him leave and not come back. Well, he did that twice, but he came back. So I didn't see it, and maybe because again, I think I had a different picture in my head what his reaction was going to be. So I didn't see the hype towards it, but that's me.
I love The Conjuring. I was super excited to hear from the screenwriters, and I love the stories that they told. But when it comes to Makuga, I watched like 40 minutes of him texting, and it wasn't worth watching for that reaction. So what I did, another thing that I loved about the interview is there was a question. I think Christian asked it. He asked the screenwriters if researching this film sort of moved the needle when it came to believing in God. And I really dug that because that's such like a bonkers question to ask, like in like a press junket or like behind the scenes stuff. For like, you never really hear questions like that when it comes to people promoting their films. So I thought that that was kind of cool that they went there and dug deep with that. You said you kind of scrolled through looking for the Makuga. Did you even catch that?
I did actually. Yeah, that was a really good question, and I mentioned, that's topics like that would definitely come up because if people believe in that or not, I mean, it still is something that is relevant to that, and then that was really cool. Kind of ballsy to even ask something like that.
For sure. I thought that was awesome, and it probably helped that they knew each other previously too, because they met with each other. I think he said when Christian worked for Silver Pictures, they had a meeting together because Christian loved that they were in this movie that he loved growing up. So that probably helped that they knew each other. Another thing I took away from that is that they gave credit to James Wan for coming up with that whole clapping thing, which I thought was really awesome. That takes place in the movie. Christian mentioned that horror can be lazy. I completely agree with you. I don't care for the genre at all. I don't know. That's sort of the main stuff I took away from that clip. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, horror to me, I mean, you got to be really, you can't fall into the same pattern as everything else. I mean, jump scares, I mean, jump scare after jump scare after jump scare, that gets lazy. And so as creative as that is, The Conjuring definitely brought a new element to the horror genre. And I'm glad that, it's no longer the found footage thing anymore. And so they're moving towards that, past that. And they've got, The Conjuring 2 coming up, and bringing forth a little bit more edge to it, and maybe even a little bit more scares, and staying away from the usual. And I kind of like seeing that. I was personally put off by towards I don't know. That's for another time. The Conjuring the ending to me just was like, meh, I don't know. But the way that they handled with the clapping thing was really cool, and I actually am looking forward to seeing The Conjuring 2 this summer.
Me too. I wanted to mention it's not the first time I've seen it in general, but it's the first time we'll be talking about it on Time Capsule. How do you feel like going back and watching these episodes that were done in this studio with the 3-camera setup? I, for one, am just really glad that they've grown so much that we don't have to watch it this way anymore. What about you?
It's just the sign of the times, we're the whole Drake song, started from the bottom, now they're here. So they're at this area, they got the technology, they got the experience, they know what works, they know what doesn't work. They're using the Collider studios now with the camera shots, they got the setup with the tables, and it's cool to see where they were to where they are now. And so back then that's what they had, that's what they worked with, and it conveyed pretty much the same stuff we've got now, just this is obviously a higher production value.
I love how far the Schmoes have come. I'm so proud of them, but it's going to be tough going back and watching these episodes for Time Capsule, because it was hard for me. I'm not going to lie, but that's okay. We still love you. Dude, I think that's all I got. I think that about wraps up Schmoeville. What do you have anything else?
No, I tell you what, just everything's going forward with what we've got with the 2-year anniversary, with the 10,000 Schmoevillians out there. That the memes are still coming, the posts are still posting, everybody's doing their thing. I mean, it's just more of the same, and I am just I'm interested in coming up. I actually now that we've got I've got a Ball Bag City T-shirt idea that I'm going to be posting. That's my first ever design, so I'm going to see if that gets some recognition there. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But I'm just looking forward to another week in Schmoeville. Oh,
did you watch the Josh Makuga show?
I actually did not. I missed that out. I missed out on that one. I will catch that definitely between now and the next podcast that we have.
It looks super pro. So I don't want to talk about this because we were building up to it in the past few weeks. It looks super pro. He's kind of moved away from like the sex talk. He wants to make it more broad. Mark Ellis was his first guest, as he was on the Between the Sheets as well. It was really good.
Cool.
My only concern is that it didn't feel like they they had a lot of fun. But I didn't really feel like they were talking too much. Like, I don't know if he plans on getting deep, or like, I don't know if he's trying to get insightful with his guest. I need to see more to sort of get the context of what the show is about. I think Between the Sheets was really good about like diving deep into the personality of the person, whereas I didn't feel like there wasn't a lot to go with Mark Ellis, even though they had a lot of fun and they played a few games. So that was cool. I really liked it. But like I said, I need more context for me to completely judge it. But with that being said, Paul, definitely check out this past week's episode and then look out for it on Monday too.
Will do.
Another thing real quick. I wanted to talk about this in the episode, but then right before we started, I saw the news break. There was a very brief time where AMC Theaters, which was a sponsor of Collider Movie Talk, they were thinking about allowing texting in their theaters. What are you doing, Grayson?
He's tweeting.
There was a brief period where AMC was going to allow texting in their theaters. People were rioting on the internet, and like personalities came out and said that they weren't going to support AMC anymore. Let me just put that to bed. AMC heard everyone, and they decided that texting will absolutely not be allowed in theaters. So we don't have to talk about that anymore because they already cleared that up.
I am so glad I saw that this morning, and I'm like, thank you, interwebs, for dealing with that quickly, because that was utter BS right there. No, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, just for the announcements, make sure you're checking out Cobster's Amateur Hour Films, the YouTube channel. Mark and Christian were talking about how funny it was, so definitely check that out on YouTube. Make sure you check out Josh McCouga Show if you haven't already. And I think that's all I've got. Support Snep on Kickstarter, Sweaties Unite. And that about does it for Schmoeville. Paul, where can the people find you?
Well, they can find me tonight at the Akron Rubber Ducks in the guest services booth if they are in the Akron area. I'm there at 6 o'clock throughout the game. But you can also find me on Twitter at the Mr. Wolf. That's TheMrWuLFF. And yeah.
I am at Film Beef Snell on Twitter, SNELL. And you can also find me on the Film Beef podcast. Last week, we reviewed Hardcore Henry. This coming weekend, we're going to be reviewing The Jungle Book. And this is an exclusive. You heard it here first. We have the two guys responsible for the Astonishing Legends podcast. It's a really great podcast. They're joining us to talk about The Jungle Book. So definitely check that out. That's coming out tomorrow night, I believe. That's Saturday. For those of you who are interested in that, you can find Film Beef Podcast on iTunes, anywhere else you can find podcasts. You can find this podcast, Schmoeville, on iTunes as well. We are up there now, so please subscribe to that if iTunes is more your thing as opposed to YouTube. With that being said, thank you for all the support that we've gotten. We love you guys, and we'd love to hear from you again once this episode is posted. Thank you so much. I'll see you later, Paul.
See ya.